Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back once again to the DCL podcast, your podcast for Disney Cruise Line history, trip reports, and general travel planning. Well, welcome to episode 12 of the podcast. We are going to move on to the third part of our Christy and I's comparison between Disney Cruise Line and Carnival Cruise Line. But before we jump into tonight's show, I'd like to talk to you about some few changes that we're going to make to the show. Just about 2 weeks ago, I had an opportunity to be down in Walt Disney World, and Christy and I and her cousin Jen had a chance to hook up, had a great night. Went to dinner at the Wave, and we could talk about that a little bit later, and then had an opportunity to go up to Top of the World Lounge to watch Wishes fireworks one more time before it changed to Happily Ever After. And as the three of us were kind of hanging out that night, I've been doing a lot of thinking about which direction I really want to take this show, and Christy's been just such a wealth of knowledge since the beginning and helping me really establish this show and kind of get it going that I'd be remiss if, and I'm excited to tell you that she's agreed to stay on now as a co-host here on the DCL podcast. So we've got a lot of fun shows planned ahead, and we've had a lot of fun here in the past recording the ones that we have, and I hope you look forward to sticking around with us and checking out what we're going to be bringing to you here in the future. A lot of really fun ones out there. Pretty excited next week to do some recording, kind of a mystery guest. So we'll have that out just as soon as we can. So once again, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to Christy for offering to help me co-host this show. So on to tonight's show, I decided to break it up into two different shows because it ended up running a little bit longer. It's pretty detailed, kind of our and mostly Christy's take on her experiences between Disney Cruise Line and Carnival Cruise Line. So in this first half, we actually start off, it was kind of a neat discussion on CDC, so Center of Disease Control ratings. Then we talk about the boarding process, room comparisons and crew interactions, and then we talk about dining, so kind of the dining rooms, quick service options, the dining rooms themselves, the buffet differences, some differences in the specialty restaurants, a little bit in the drink package options. There's just a wealth of knowledge there with Carnival, so we don't get too deep into it, but do kind of touch on that. In the second half of the show, we'll have that out here in the next 4 or 5 days. You can listen to that. We kind of talk about the kids' clubs, pool deck options, and destination options on the different ships, entertainment options, and the cliffhanger that you all going to have to hang around. We saved the best for last, where we talk about who has the best coffee. I'm not sure either one of them do have the best coffee, but we'll find out there at the end. So once again, thanks for joining us tonight, and sit back, relax, as we bring you Carnival versus Disney. And now I'd like to welcome back to the show Christy Puttick. How are you doing today, Christy?
I'm well, thank you.
Well,
and my voice is back to normal.
It is back to normal, but I thought it was pretty good last time also, too. So today, we are finally getting around to talking about your thoughts on the differences between your Carnival cruise and the Disney cruise. But before we do that, I thought we'd jump in. I tweeted this out a couple of weeks ago, and I got this from Doug Parker over at CruiseNet Radio, and he tweeted out the latest scores from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention on all of the Disney cruise ships. And I thought it was pretty cool that all 4 of them scored 100%. And doing a little research into it, they look at all of the different ships, or the CDC looks at all the different ships once a year. And it kind of varies when they hit each one of the ships, but they go through all different kinds of inspections of not only the public areas, but the crew areas, and all of the different areas where food is prepared and everything like that. And as I'm sure you've seen, Christy, on the Disney ships, I mean, they do an amazing job kind of keeping things clean as the cruise goes along. And it was kind of cool to see that all of the Disney ships came in at 100% this last year.
Yeah, that's great. And I think they have been like year after year after year after year.
Right. And I do apologize. I didn't go back and look at the rest at the years prior. And since we're talking about Carnival, I just thought it's right out there too. Carnival did a really good job too overall. And I'm sure that most of the major cruise lines kind of get the same type of reports, as far as most of Carnival's were in the low to mid 90s. And several of them also had 100 as well. So if you're interested in looking that up before you go on a ship, or before you go out, you can go to just Google the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention cruise ship scores, and it'll come up with the website there, so you can kind of take a look at that. So just kind of a fun, interesting fact to throw out there in case you missed that earlier when I tweeted it out. So Any other thoughts on that, Christy? Or
No, I mean, I think, like you said, most cruise lines really try hard to make sure the ships all are appearing clean and are actually clean. The biggest thing that ships are always concerned about from a passenger viewpoint is norovirus. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, you have to have your hand sanitizer and put your hand sanitizer on, but norovirus is not prevented through hand sanitizer. It helps with other stuff. But norovirus is the biggest issue that you could have, which is like a, gastrointestinal illness, is the biggest sort of big problem a cruise ship could have. And hand washing is how you do that the best.
yeah, that's why you see that before you go to eat. Pretty much everywhere you go to, they're always out there. And each cruise line, it seems like, has a different process of the way they do that. But whether they hand you the sandy wipes or whatever else. So good on Disney then.
One thing that Carnival's doing on that subject is, and I think Disney actually, the Wonder, when it just got reimagined, they added the hand washing stations as well, but Carnival added hand washing stations on the Vista. So the Vista is their newest ship that has launched so far. There were hand washing stations in the buffet.
Oh.
So you could even go through the line and put your plate down and wash your hands and have nice clean hands before you start eating.
That's kind of cool. Yeah,
and I would remind people too, this is my little OCD thing, but they give you the hand wiping rag, even on Disney, before you go through the buffet, which is fine. It helps with the tongs, but you will notice now that I've pointed it out that people lick their fingers while they go through the buffet line, and then they touch that. And even if they had clean fingers before they started cleaning whatever food ended up on their finger with their mouth, that ends up on your tongue. So wash your hands. Keep the little wipey. Wash your hands when you're done going through the buffet line.
Good point on that one. They've got those hand washers in the kids clubs on
yes, they
on
do.
the Magic. So
yep, and every Disney ship has those in the kids club.
In the kids clubs. Okay, cool. I kind of noticed it last time for the first time, I guess, when we went through on our cruise. So, well, cool. So we are going to talk about your kind of experience between Carnival. You were on the Vista, and Disney, you were on the Fantasy, and both of those were cruises down to the Caribbean. Just starting with, why don't we just start just from the beginning then and go with the boarding process? What were your thoughts between the two different cruise lines as far as the boarding process went, Christy?
So I feel like Disney, especially in Port Canaveral, which is where the Disney trip did leave from, is they have this down to a science. And we have done, I think, 6 cruises out of Port Canaveral through Disney. They know exactly how to run that port. And so it's very easy. It's very easy, and it never feels that crowded. Disney felt a little clustery. Not Disney, sorry, Carnival. We got there. They have port arrival times now. This is a new thing, and we got there within our port arrival time. It was crowded, and they do the suite passengers first, and then they have this program called Faster the Fun that we talked about, which sort of buys your way of getting on board quickly. Man, I was in the area that contained those two groups of people, and there were a ton of people in there. So, and then you had to do this really long walk to even get on the ship. And actually, to get off the ship, you had to do this really long walk. And I don't feel like Disney has that problem.
Is the area just smaller itself, I guess? I mean, every port's a little bit different, but...
It's just so crowded. And it could be that maybe there were more people on that ship, but... whatever, did they all get there at 11:15? I mean, they cut down the number of Faster to the Fun people, so it can't have been that they just sold so many. I mean, they have a number that they cut it off at. Yeah, it was, if we're giving winners, Disney definitely wins in that category.
And then how about just the rough time frame? Did it feel like you got on the ship a little bit faster as far as Disney went, or was it kind of about the same between the two?
Well, I would say it's definitely faster. But then Disney's suite class is so limited, and so we had a suite on both of the ships. But Disney treats their suites so much differently.
As far as the suite class goes with Carnival, you needed to be able to you had to actually pay extra, right? If you wanted to get on faster versus...
No, because they still let those, the people that had a suite still got on before anybody else.
Okay.
And that was that Faster to the Fun that then got on after that. But Disney has so many less suites, I think, is part of it. So it just went a lot smoother.
Okay. Well, that's a good segue then. Let's talk about your thoughts on the differences in the rooms that you had. And you had a suite, I believe, on both of them. Is that correct?
Yes. I mean, there's kind of no comparison in terms of Disney, and let's take even the suite out of it, but we'll talk about that briefly. It is about 2.5 times the price on Disney for a suite than it was for our Carnival suite. So that's a major difference. I mean, I think it was like $5,000, $5,500 once we had to move the week of our cruise a little bit later in the booking season versus like $12,000 on Disney. That's a big price difference. But
Okay.
you feel that price difference all over the place. But let's take that out of the mix. Let's just pretend like that didn't exist. Even the quality of the bedding or in the sheets, in the carpet is so soft on Disney. You actually kind of want to walk around on it versus, on Carnival, it was just a fine, like very bare minimum carpet. So it's little stuff like that in the cabins that you notice. In a regular Disney cabin, so that everybody, books besides those in concierge, the furniture is all just a little bit nicer. Everything is just a little bit nicer.
And that's
Carnival is very bare bones in that regard.
So overall, you were happier with the room that you had on the Disney ship over the Carnival. Not that the Carnival room was bad; it was just the little things like that, the carpeting, the bedding, and what about like the bathroom situation too? How did that compare?
I hate to say it, but there's no comparison because on Disney you get 2 full bathrooms and one of them is like the size of somebody's cabin. So I mean, it's just giant and it's like the type you'd probably find in a luxury hotel. I mean, with the huge soaking tub. But the Carnival bathrooms were adequate. The thing that I didn't like about this particular class on Carnival, and I think it was like this all the way up to a couple of different levels of suites. So we had what was called a family suite. Then they also had Havana suites, and then they had spa suites. And they had whatever they call the regular, like grand suite, I think is sort of what they call their regular suites that would be on every cabin. Our bathrooms were not, maybe because it's families, and they did like the split bath because for families that, like everybody says with Disney, that's a big plus for people. So they do have to make them smaller. They were not elegant and they were very basic. But I will say the rest of the room was fine. And I know we talked about it, and I know you're not putting it down either. It was comfortable. So all of that stuff. But you're getting your $7,000 difference, if you can say that. With
Right.
Disney, in terms. Well, and I guess a few of the thousand, honestly, a couple at least, is the extra amenities you get on the Disney cruise with the concierge class, which we had already talked about. So that definitely represents a little bit of it. But then they really do put into those cabins. They make them lovely. But we didn't mind. We enjoyed the Carnival suite still.
What about the differences in the balcony? Were they about the same size or
No,
much difference there?
Yeah, I was not super impressed with the Carnival balcony. I felt like it was a little bit narrow. However, I also had a hump, like an extended balcony on one of the bump outs on Disney. So I won't always have that, but I did have it. Our Disney balcony was much, much bigger, and the furniture was nicer.
So anything different? Anything else that came to mind between the differences in the rooms between the two?
The one, this also is related to the ship, is the movement. And I know we talked about this on both podcast episodes. Man, on Carnival, we hardly felt them moving at all, ever. And it was still some seas, some of it at the time. And on Disney, yes, it was a little bit of a windy week. But man, and I had said even my kid got a little ill. You can feel every bit of movement. Part of it is that they put the concierge cabins at the very front of the ship on upper level. So you would feel that a little.
And that's on Disney.
And that's on Disney. But even without that, even in the restaurants, like when you were sitting sort of midship or aft or whatever, you really felt it. I'll be curious to compare that to the Dream when we cruise coming.
Yeah, I can't really give you a good comparison because it was pretty flat the entire time we were out to sea on our last one. But I did notice that the what are they called? I can't even say it now. The stabilizers. My son and I saw the stabilizers sticking out at one point, but we didn't feel hardly any movement at all. But once again, it wasn't a windy and it was pretty calm almost the entire 5 times we were out there. Or 5 days we were there. So we can't really give you a good comparison that way. But What was your overall feeling with the staff and the crew on between the two ships?
I would say the majority of the crew were equal. So my husband and I just sort of at lunchtime today went through this and kind of went through the list together, so I have his opinion as well. The majority of the crew were equal. However, on Carnival, we noticed there were more crew members that just didn't speak as much English. And I think I mentioned on the Carnival podcast how literally one time I was ordering my lunch, I really did lose myself and yelled out into this area, "Does anybody speak English here?" Because like I was trying to get my gluten-free food and they just kept handing me all the things that were wrong.
Uh-huh.
And that was not appropriate of me to do, but I really did lose my cool. But there was definitely people with less strong of English speaking skills, which I couldn't have botched that sentence more while I'm trying to talk about good, English speaking skills. And then the other thing we noticed is, okay, so again, most of the crew were great, right? Like the Disney crew members are awesome. Most of the Carnival crew members were awesome and like they could switch over to Disney, no problem. Some of them were just downright rude.
Really?
And a little bit inappropriate and a little bit lazy. And you could tell. And like one thing that my husband pointed out is that on Carnival, you would get more no's. Oh, can we get this? No, we don't have that, or it's not possible. On Disney, they would try to figure it out. Just whatever the scenario is. They would, for the most part, try to figure out. There's hardly ever no. Like, think back on your cruise. Do you ever remember somebody saying no to you?
No, and I think that's just indicative of the Disney company and the way they train people is not to say no. It's instead of saying no, it's like, how can let me try and figure out a solution for you. And it may not be what you're looking for, but they're at least going to try.
And I feel like they would go, for the most part, that crew would go above and beyond. I mean, to the most ridiculous level. I think I told you on one of the concierge podcasts that I had ordered, or my trip report from the Disney cruise, that I just wanted to know if they had any more in the concierge lounge, the prosciutto. It wasn't a big deal. I didn't really need it. But man, they brought me the biggest thing of prosciutto. They're like, kind of at this point, it doesn't matter whether you want it, you're getting it.
Right.
Because you've asked for it, and we just feel like we have to get it for you. And really, our servers on Carnival were absolutely phenomenal. And our room attendant was absolutely phenomenal. But it was like there were others that were not.
So with the servers between Carnival and Disney, can you get the same server roughly every night if you go to the same place? Or can you request the same server? Because I think I've seen that in regards to other cruise lines too. So,
but we had the same time seating anyway. So no matter what, we were having the same waiter. Because it's the same restaurant in the same table every single night.
Okay.
So Disney will rotate you, but they take your waiter with you.
Right.
Carnival, you're in the same restaurant now. You either have a fixed seating time or anytime seating. So with anytime seating, you could request a particular table and a particular waiter, and then they do try to accommodate you. And I actually had some friends and clients that went on the Carnival cruise after I did, and they were in anytime seating. And they did find a waiter they really liked, and they went back to them several times.
Well, that's a good segue. Let's move on into food then, if there's nothing else you can think of as far as the crew goes.
Nope. The food. Okay, so I'm going to start with dessert.
All right.
That's the most fun. I think Carnival wins. And again, I think we were trying not to score them, but we kind of are, right? So warm chocolate melting cake. Disney doesn't do anything close to that. And they actually do have some sort of, lava cake. It's not nearly as good. And if we're even stuck on gluten-free, Disney's gluten-free dessert is much to be desired. But warm chocolate melting cake, either gluten-free or regular, Carnival gets the win there. But you get Mickey bars on Disney Cruise, and so, those are pretty great. Not quite as amazing as warm chocolate melting cake, but those are pretty good.
Yeah.
So if we start with dessert, overall, none of my family are, we're not particularly in love with Disney dessert. Carnival does make really good pies and dessert and cake, like the offerings, even besides warm chocolate melting cake, for the regular person. My options weren't as wonderful for gluten-free, but frankly, after warm chocolate melting cake, I don't care. Yeah, I think everybody sort of liked Carnival's dessert a little bit better.
Now, did you do any of the specialty dining, or did you eat in the main dining rooms every time?
On Carnival for dinner, we ate in the main dining room every night.
Okay, so how about, not talking about Palo or Remy on Disney, how did the main dining rooms compare between just your overall kind of thoughts on the food between Carnival and Disney?
We thought both of them had really well prepared food. We all kind of liked Carnival's menu a lot better, more consistently as well, like the choices. But like the meat quality wasn't as good as on Disney.
Okay.
Like one night's prime rib, first of all, was super thin, and it wasn't prime ribby at all. You could tell it was a less expensive cut of meat, but what was weird is there was prime rib again at the end of the cruise. Oh, maybe because they just do it on Sundays or something. No, that doesn't make any sense. Or Saturdays. That's what it'd be. It could be that they just serve prime rib on Saturday. And because we had 2 Saturdays. The second prime rib dinner was very good. So that we had on Carnival. So I don't know. And it could be that they picked up meat and port or something. But so Disney's like quality is definitely a little bit better. But I think we actually overall maybe liked the menu on Carnival a little bit better for dinner in the dining room. And we remember, my husband and I were talking about this, Disney did better than Carnival did with my first night meal because, again, I have the gluten situation where I can't have gluten, so I have to order gluten-free. And my options on Disney were not great for that first night of dinner because you can't pre-order, which you do all the rest of the cruises. But Carnival had much better options that first night for me. I was just going to say, then on to like the buffet, where, you know, people would eat lunch, I guess, typically.
And that's where I was going?
Yeah. The buffet on Carnival, my husband said wasn't really consistent and nothing was coordinated. The lines were also really long. There'd be a carving station with a particular meat, and he really actually enjoyed the carving station every time he ate there. But then sometimes there were no sides that would go with it that made any sense. Mm-hmm. And with Disney, there are so many choices. And he just felt like the Carnival choices were slightly odd. So Carnival also, though, has more places to eat lunch. So Disney does have a sit-down restaurant, and Carnival does some of the days have a sit-down restaurant. But then Carnival also has, like, the pasta, the Italian place. You can go for lunch, and there's no charge for that. Or you can go, they have, like, a barbecue place that you can go to. Then they have like a wok, those meals, you know?
Right.
So Asian. So you can go for lunch. And they have all these different little restaurants all over the place that are serving different food. So that part was good about Carnival. And for me, if you recall, I ate Guy's burgers every day.
Right.
And they were so good. I mean, they don't compare. They kick any burger Disney serves on a cruise's butt. I mean, they were, that's why I ate it every single day. It was just easy. My husband said that Carnival's pizza kind of took forever, but it tasted like Via Napoli's pizza in Epcot. You know, that really, like that thinner but harder crust, a little bit of oil type at the bottom. He said it was awesome, and my kid really liked it too. So it kind of took a long time because it would take a while for them to cook it in that oven, and there was kind of a line because everybody thought it was awesome. But their pizza kicked any pizza that Disney's was serving's butt. It was really, really, really good. Whereas Disney's pizza is just, it's not special at all.
No, it's pretty basic.
For other options for lunch, Disney has the quick service where you stand and they have all those windows sort of close by and you like go from window to window. So you could do that instead of going to the buffet, like the Flows and whatever other little places they're called. Carnival has, their comparison would be like the burger or the pizza, and they're all little individual spots, or and then they had a Mexican, and they were way better. So the quick service, quote unquote, options were the food itself. It was way tastier on Carnival than like the quick service options on Disney. So then for breakfast, I got into a routine on Carnival of just going to the restaurant and every day ordering Eggs Benedict, which was awesome. And I still crave Eggs Benedict as a result of eating that for like 7 nights in a row, 7 mornings in a row on that cruise. And I miss it. And Disney does not really have a place that you can do that as quickly. And their breakfast menu on Carnival was pretty big. And that's if you ate in the restaurant. And I feel like Disney's was a little bit smaller. But we don't tend, because we had the concierge lounge on Disney, we tend to just eat breakfast there. for the most part.
So you're not even really venturing down to cabanas or anything else, since you've got all that available for you right there.
Because it's just gotten easier. And, like, they provide me with, like, a bagel for my gluten-free needs, and there's enough there, and, like, they have meats and cheeses, and it's continental, but a little bit better than just, breads type stuff. And so it's sufficient for us. And my child doesn't eat much breakfast except for a little bit of fruit, and, he drinks his milk. And my husband really doesn't eat much breakfast, and if he does, he just has a bowl of cereal, and they have that in there.
That's okay. So kind of summary overall for food, it sounds like quality overall, maybe Disney was a little bit better in the main dining rooms, but you had more choices, or a little bit more excited about the choices on Carnival. And then when it comes to the quick service stuff around the pool for lunch, Carnival definitely has more choices, and you can actually sit down in those little places too and eat rather than trying to find a place to eat. But maybe the buffet on Disney was a little bit better than Carnival.
Yep, good job.
Yeah, there we go.
Good recap. I guess we could have just said it like that and saved several minutes.
No, because you get a lot more information when you talk about it. So, I mean, one of the differences, obviously, Disney's is generally going to be a more expensive product for a lot of different reasons.
Right.
But it also has a lot of things included. And I just thought I'd throw these out here. Obviously, prices can change at different times, but all of the main dining room food is included on Carnival. But if you want to go to specialty restaurants, both Carnival and Disney do have different specialty restaurants. Disney only has one on the Magic and the Wonder and two on the bigger ships. And just for some price points, just for the fun of it, right now Palo on all four of the ships is $30 per person for dinner and brunch. And then you got Remy. Have you been to Remy?
I haven't. My husband's not really a foodie.
Yeah.
He's really meat and potatoes and a salad. And then with and we don't eat seafood. And so we just always felt that we have too limited of meal capabilities. I don't know, things that we would like, that we haven't ventured there. I guess if I was cruising with other people and somebody else wanted to go, I would go with them and leave him at home.
Right. Now,
I don't think I would enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm not sure to be completely. I love Palo. Palo's been nice when we've gone there. I'm not sure if I'd probably try Remy. But Remy's $95 per person for dinner and $60 for brunch. And to kind of give it in comparison to Carnival, and here's the one question I had about Carnival is Carnival, at least from what I've seen from the basics of their website, has 4 different restaurants. One's called the Chef's Table, so I'm not sure if that's actually a restaurant or not, but they run anywhere from $15 per person at the Asian and the Italian restaurant, and at the steakhouse it's $35 per person, and the Chef's Table, which I'm guessing is going to be a really good experience, is somewhere between $75 and $95 depending on the ship. But with those specialty restaurants, can you book those ahead of time, or is that something that you book while you're on the ship, or do you just show up and go?
No, you are supposed to book them ahead of time, and from the cruise group that I was in for the Carnival booking, it seemed like it was kind of difficult to get a reservation, and it took a long time to get back to you with whether they had it or not, whereas, obviously Disney is right there. You try to make the reservation, it's available, it's not, or you can book it on board, which I do believe on Carnival there's still open spaces, and in fact, on most cruises there would be, where you could just change your mind and go.
Mm-hmm.
And then one other note is on Carnival, on the bottom of their menu, in the main dining room for dinner, they do have paid for options.
Okay.
If you wanted like a filet or you wanted lobster every night, like they serve lobster with the lobster dinner still somewhere in the cruise, on the formal night. But if you wanted any more than that night's lobster, then you could buy it off of the bottom of the menu. I mean, it's an option, I guess. They also sell, they have a seafood shack on some of the ships, or on most of them, and they charge for that food. So there are more opportunities to pay for food, for sure, on Carnival. Whereas in Disney, if they're offering it, it's included, unless you're at the specialty restaurants.
Right. And to reiterate for Disney, too, when you book when your booking window comes open, if there's a certain night you want to go, especially it seems like at sea, other than maybe the first night from what I've seen, right. You want to book those specialty dining reservations when your booking window opens to make sure you get it.
Yes, but I would definitely check back on board, because I have had many cruises where we have changed or added from on board, and they'll make a wait list, and they really are great on Disney. There was one more note. Oh, on Disney, at the bars in the evening, or maybe all day, but at the bars, they do have pub food that they charge for, and Carnival had it as well.
Okay.
their bars. So that is something that is occurring.
And then the last thing, I guess, is just talking about drink packages. I'm not going to go into, there's about 1 million different drink packages for alcohol. Alcohol you have to pay for on both different cruise lines, but soda and whatnot is included on Disney, whereas if you want soda, like the all-you-can-drink soda, and I believe it has a couple other different drinks associated with it that are non-alcoholic, but on Carnival it's $6.95 a day for an adult and $4.95 a day for children, and I think that's whether you do it ahead of time or once you get on the ship. So just another part where the price point is lower when you buy that ticket on Carnival, but there are many different ways that they're gonna get you dependent upon what you want for added on extras money wise. Well, cool.
And then Carnival does not have an alcoholic drink Disney rather does not have an alcoholic drink package, but Carnival does. So if you want to pre-purchase all your alcohol, Disney has a couple of programs like wine, or you can you could pre-purchase or get bulk wine, and beer you can like buy a mug and then you save a little bit on the refills. But there's no comparison. There's no drink package like the other lines have.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Carnivals, I looked it up. If you do it ahead of time, it's $49.95 per person plus a 15% gratuity per day. And for if you do it once you get on the ship, it's $54.95 per person. So those are the going rates right now. Obviously, they can change, but it kind of gives you an idea of what they're going to charge you, I guess, depending upon how much you drink. Well, that is going to end part one of our discussion on Disney Cruise Line versus Carnival. I hope you enjoyed kind of the comparisons that we've brought out for you, and look for part two to come out here in the next 3 to 4 days. Once again, thanks for coming back and taking a listen. And if you can, we'd really appreciate it if you go over to iTunes if you like what you're hearing and leave us a review. That always helps us get the message out to more people, and helps us kind of expand the show and bring it out to more people. So if you have a trip between now and then, we want to wish you safe travels and fair winds on wherever your journey may take you. Once again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on the DCL podcast.